All right, welcome to another episode of the EsportsNext podcast. It is my pleasure today, alongside, as always, the lovely founder of the Esports Trade Association, Megan Van Petten, to welcome our elevator pitch winners from EsportsNext 2023. We have two of the three co-founders from Glider, Rick Tett and John Warren. Welcome to the show and congratulations on your victorious victory.
Thank you, John and Megan. It was awesome. I'm glad to be.
I mean that was all Rick, really. We got to watch that from afar, and that was great. We thought he did a great job, and so did everyone else. So,
well, similarly, I ride Megan's coattails, so I can relate, John, that to have a partner in the business that's doing all the work and getting everything done. So I commend you for working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yep.
Rick, you and I met when was that when we met? We had breakfast in Dallas. Was that
just before Eva opened?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right. So that is almost a year now.
I think so.
I would say. Yep. And so it was just so fantastic to, learn what you were doing, to see you get involved with ESCA, come to conference, enter the elevator pitch competition, and also win. Why don't you tell our listeners what exactly is Glider?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Glider is a novel new foot controller that allows you to get your feet into gaming. So this is one of our prototypes. We're still in the prototype stage. But what's unique about this foot controller over any other foot controller that ever existed before is that it has a neutral position rather than an accelerator pedal, which kind of has a base position and you go down. This can go in either direction. It was actually inspired by the hoverboard. Operates similarly. And it was developed, in my mind, initially as a solution for moving around in virtual reality. So, you have a problem once you put the immersive headset on. How do you move around? There's certainly expensive stuff like in Ready Player One, the big, huge treadmill.
Yeah.
There's
or a massive room, but
or you have a room and you can do some redirection, or you have the Eva kind of sports place, or the Void where it's almost pre-planned. Everything in the VR environment matches what your real environment is, and but we felt like there needs to be other solutions. And I actually woke up thinking about my nephew on his hoverboard, and it's just like, oh my God, I could use that. In the process, though, once I started developing it, I developed it as a standing device. And then I realized, wait, I could make a seated device and kind of be a new solution for the VR world, where you could just sit, put this in front of you, and move around wherever you wanted to. And we started to think about, well, what if you wanted to go sideways? You can't go sideways on a hoverboard. So then we added an extra flap, which allows you to actually just roll your foot and activate another switch. But as I got into it, I started figuring out, how can I demo this? So I started taking FPS games and hooking it in as a keyboard mouse with WASD and mouse movements. And it turned out it worked great as a locomotion in FPS. I can move myself through Fortnite, Fallout, any kind of environment where you want to move backwards, forwards, sideways, whatever. And so that sort of got the gaming side in mind. Finally, I started to figure out, well, in some cases you might not want to use it for locomotion, but you could still use all the same functions. Like as you put your left foot down, you could actually have that trigger one action. The right one, you trigger a different action. Your heel could be another action. And actually with these what I call the strafing flaps, you can actually activate a second switch, which changes the mode on everything. So you can do 16 different actions theoretically.
Wow.
Without ever picking your foot up. So, I've taken it to some esports groups and had them play around with it. And they're like, oh, I can just change my camera move, camera selection with this, or I can change my map. I can roll or flip and roll it Rocket League, just fire and Overwatch. I mean, and if you don't even use all 16 functions, even if you just use 2, it's useful.
Yeah.
And so we just think it's a useful tool, kind of a mouse for the feet.
Mhm.
Actually, a keyboard mouse or a gamepad for the feet. Anyway, that's what I've been working on for a while. I've got several patents on it, China, Japan, Korea, and 2 in the US. So, we're ready to roll this thing out. And that's where I was very fortunate to be able to recruit John here, I guess, within the last year, John Warren. And I'll let him tell a little bit about his background, or I'll let you ask the questions, John.
John, will you please tell us about your background?
Yeah, sure. I mean, actually, Rick told me about, he first showed this to me. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. So that was at least 3.5 years ago. Um, and I'll be honest, when there are reasons why I couldn't really get involved when he first showed me. But another thing I kept thinking, I was like, surely someone's done this before.
Yeah.
I was in games media, so I cover games hardware and I cover like a lot of stuff. And I was a game developer before that. And I'm just thinking, like, we like, surely this exists, like even in the adaptive market, like maybe someone's made something like this. And then it
Yeah.
really wasn't until, we reconnected about 9 months ago that, I did more market research, I did more due diligence, and even in that 3.5 year span, like no one had done something like this.
Yeah.
And so many of the options out there, like Rick said, are they're unitaskers, as I guess I would call them. They're basically things that would simulate a racing pedal or simulate a rudder pedal for flight sim, or they're single touch buttons essentially to like switch between scenes if you're streaming and stuff. And all of that stuff is certainly useful, but we feel like the use case for those things is super narrow. And
Yeah.
I looked at this device and I just started to kind of rattle off in my brain like every single genre, every single use that you could have for this device. And it just became clear to me. And like, it's like, I think even the industry kind of knows it. I mean, this is an Xbox Elite controller. I'm holding it up for your viewers on YouTube.
Yep.
But it's like even the manufacturers of controllers, and mice and keyboards, they get that we're running out of real estate with our hands. They're adding stuff to the controllers and mice and keyboards we're
That's
already
true.
using.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually, in our view, kind of doesn't necessarily solve the issue of hand strain. And so we really feel like, yeah, you can use this for locomotion. But you can also map it to certain specific things and essentially just incorporate your feet as if you're driving a car, as if you're drumming, as if you're playing piano. You're doing these things in kind of tandem. And at least, in small sample sizes, we feel like we've seen some really nice use cases of like tactical shooters being able to control your peeking and your crouching and your aiming more focused with your feet while you're using your hands to do everything else. And so it's just a really cool device. This is my first foray into hardware, and I'm just kind of addicted to the idea of like, yeah, let's make cool shiny stuff that we're putting in people's homes, because I'm hooked. So
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think what's cool about it, one of the things that's cool about it is how really adaptive it is. I'm hearing that you've kind of developed this in a way that has so many options of use that you're kind of saying, hey, consumer, you kind of decide the best use of this rather than having a very specific, narrow, it does this.
We keep calling it our very good problem, right? Like I think it is a problem for me to be like, how do we really target this in the market? If we're kind of creating a new category, we have to aim it somewhere. We think that place is traditional gaming on PC. People are used to plugging in, different stuff to their PCs already. This works out of the box. It's like 90% of things you'll ever play on PC, which is great already. You don't have to you don't have to do anything different except for plug this in. You load the configurator. It's super easy. So like, we know kind of where to go, but there are just kind of an endless number of secondary markets and uses that kind of set my brain on fire, not only a marketing challenge, but also just the potential of it, right? It's like we feel like we can go in 20 different directions with it and have some kind of success. And then, then we're good,
Yeah, I think one of the interesting ones that comes up is people actually several, but one of them was video editing for scrubbing back and forth.
Yeah,
Somebody said, "Hey, I'd like to be using it for that."
When we first posted this thing on socials and people kind of got an idea of how this worked, I just was getting DMs from video editors like, "Oh, I can scrub through audio through clips of video analog with my feet while I'm using my hands to mark stuff up and move stuff around." And I was just like, "Hey, like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you that's not how you use this thing, and I think that's really exciting, and it speaks to kind of like, I think real specific genre enthusiasts will spend a lot of money on these like specific peripherals, but like this kind of peripheral is something that a lot of different people can use for a lot of different things out of the box, which I think makes it super exciting."
So as a skateboarder, John, you might appreciate the fact that a lot of people look at hear foot controller and they immediately say, "Oh my God, you should make a skateboard game or you should make a snowboard game." And my reaction is I get a little frustrated because that's like saying my computer mouse should be for a baseball game, because I'm using my hand. So I definitely fight this kind of automatic reaction that somehow it has to do with some sort of board that you put your feet on. It's really a tool, and we, somebody may figure out how to do it, but I don't want to have anybody have a false expectation that says, "Oh, if I get this, it's going to be like being on a skateboard." No way.
Don't stand on them. At least this first round, don't stand on
sure. We I mean, not that it won't stand, it'll
right.
We think the product will stand up for that, but it's not intended.
No,
it's a little
be tough to use.
Mushy. It's not like the Wii Fit board. It's too mushy to stand on for most people.
Yeah. I'm curious, you're sharing all these really interesting applications of the product. As you've gone through the invention process, from the day you started, I don't know, screwing nuts and bolts together, whatever you're doing, to today, what is the most surprising application that you have seen, whether it was yourself or somebody come up with, other than the video editing scrubbing, which was really interesting too?
I mean, locomotion was definitely the intended target movement from a first person, because that's really what its origins are. Like based in the hoverboard, or tank controls is another way people sometimes think of it. As far as other ways to use it, I think that the funnest one, I guess I can think of, is just Rocket League. I've seen some people play with it. I can't say anybody's used it for long periods of time, but I have had some people like hook it up and they're like, "Well, I'm no worse than I was just using the gamepad within 5 minutes." So I'm like, "Oh, well, if you're no worse right now, then where can you go?" Just things like, and I know the one that I really liked was when a guy was doing some interning for me, started playing Madden with it. Right. And I questioned him, and he said, "Oh yeah, it was like money. I was juking and spinning." And it just, that clicked in my mind. Is like, think about games where you are, so your feet are involved, at least in your mental, in your mind. Right. And the fact that you could now have your feet involved in that game.
Right.
Yeah. And we found this thing, we've discovered this term called automaticity. And I think that's where where your brain foot connection or brain limb connections work so automatic that you don't even think about it. I often relate, driving down the highway, you're going 7 miles over the speed limit, you see a cop, your mileage drops like 7 miles an hour before you even
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Right. Or like with Apple products, like Apple laptop, like the gestures, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That is, you just kind of know how to operate it because it kind of makes sense of how you would think the computer would operate.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought about too when I sat in that restaurant with you, Rick, and got to try it out about a year ago, is we are such multitaskers.
Yeah.
And so like we're always, picking up our phone or doing this or XYZ. And so just having the ability that your hands can be free if they're needed to do something else or to be more efficient because you're doing multiple things at once. That's where my mind went just outside of the complete gameplay process, where it's like, you know what? Now I've got my hands free to do more at the same time.
Absolutely. And then that brings me to actually, maybe this is the most surprising, the answer to your surprising question. And that is, I discovered about a year and a half ago that there was this X Prize competition going on where teams all over the world were competing for like, I think it was $10 million to create a robot and a control center where a human could operate that robot remotely as an avatar.
Yeah.
So in most cases, they were operating the robot with VR headset on, and they had to have arm controls to control the arms of the robot, because the robot had to go through this course and had a drill. It was kind of supposed to be a Mars mission kind of thing, where this operator had to be trained within, I think they got an hour to train the operator as part of the contest. And then this operator would then control this robot. Well, when I read about that, I'm like, well, if their hands are busy tied up with the arms and holding drills and picking up rocks, how are they going to move around? Are they going to have to multitask by switching back and forth by using the hands and then using the arms? And so I had a young man do some queries out to some of the teams, and we found one team that ended up using the glider as their mechanism for controlling robot remotely. And it's about that time I realized, wait, a remote robot avatar is kind of like virtual reality but real.
Right.
So it did fit in, but it was a surprising thing. And so they ended up taking, I think, 3 more of the units, and they're planning to use them in a hospital robotics thing where they're having to control robots in a hospital.
So for those of you that are just jumping in or don't know yet, they won the elevator pitch, and it's kind of a big deal. Just ask me or Mark Cuban. So I want to know, why the glider? Why is it the best? Why should we get part of your Kickstarter? Why does everyone need one?
John?
Yeah, I'm sure I can take it. I mean, it's the most versatile foot control device on the market. Well, soon to be on the market. It does everything every other foot controller does, all at the same time, essentially. So no matter what you want to get into, the glider can accommodate. So it's a really exciting device in that regard. We also love that it fits right into your existing ecosystem. We're not really asking gamers or people who are sitting at their desk using PCs to do much different. The slides right under the desk. It looks great, feels great. It just feels nice to have something under your feet, as a lot of people can attest to. Maybe over the pandemic, you got a little stationary treadmill, you got a little foot flexor. It's a nice thing to have, and it also incorporates seamlessly with your kind of digital environment. So that's great. And yeah, we've got a Kickstarter. Depending on when you're listening to this, it might be live. Either way, you can go to feetlegal.com. That's FEETLEGAL.com. And that'll take you wherever we want you to go at the time. So if you're doing it before launch, it might be for a pre-sale page. If you're doing it after the Kickstarter launch, it'll take you right to the Kickstarter, but that's the URL that you should use. But yeah, like, you know, it's a super exciting device. We're planning on going to market next year in the spring. And we just want more people to play with it. I mean, it's just, that's the most exciting thing. We've got a couple of in-person shows around DFW over the next couple months, and I'm really excited to finally kind of be at one of these to see people use it in mass, because that's, you know, we have so much footage and amazing stories from people using it in the past at these kind of events, and just a joyous thing to get people to try it out and see how much fun they're having.
Yeah, and
Well,
we know.
I just reserved one.
Okay,
Great.
awesome. Thank you.
Boom.
Thank you so
So
much.
I appreciate that,
Sold.
Megan.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. You know, so I think, you know, it's interesting. Adoption curve of new stuff is, you know, it's famous, right? There's early adopters, and you know, we've got a lot of work to do to have the support system there and stuff like that. But you know, we think that, you know, early adopters can have fun. I mean, think about products that have come out, and you know, you think about, hey, I was one of the first people to have this.
Right.
You know, the first people to have an iPhone, or you know, a new type of you know, keyboard or something like that. So I think, you know, we're hoping that there's enough people out there that can help us get going. You know, hardware, we have tooling costs. That's basically the holdup. You know, that in the startup world, people, you know, advisors that I've, you know, talked to over at the university, they always have the academic route. They say, well, just go sell some. It's like, well, the problem is I can 3D print them and it costs me $800 each. It's
Right.
not going to make a lot of sense to sell the, you know, the few that I've made that way.
Right.
And so we know that we have a hurdle to overcome, and that's where Kickstarter is perfect. We can show our story on Kickstarter, and hopefully enough people buy in and back us to get us started. And we're going to have a, you know, huge discount on it. So it's a great time to get in.
I'm in. I was also a fan, and you know, I'm not sure how you guys feel about this. I was a fan of the Fitboard or the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it stopped.
Well,
I think
the Wii stopped, right? So that's kind of the problem there. By the way, and I always tell this to investors, potential investors, the Wii Fitboard, there were 42 million of them sold.
Wow.
And if you imagine that they were, say, approximately $100, that's $4.2 billion in Wii Fitboards. We
I would just
like
follow that business. Yes, like follow the leader. Like
and that was on one console with a handful of games, and you know, so
well,
you know.
And I'll take an even bigger swing here. I mean, like, the reason Nintendo did not continue to make Wii Balance Board is not because it wasn't popular or successful. They just found that, you know, they had spent a bunch of budget on basically having these developers make something very specifically for this device. Well, Glider works with whatever you want it to work with. Like, that's the exciting thing for us, is that, like, it's not like you could get the Wii Balance Board out and then go, I'm going to play Mario with this. Well, you might not be able to, you know, it does a very specific thing, and it did a very specific thing very well. And we like that. We like that model. It inspired us and inspires our kind of path to success, I think. But there's something kind of shinier about being able to say, I have this cool thing, I can use my feet on it, and like 90% of the things that you ever do on your PC, you can do right now. And that number is going to grow as we work with partners to ensure that the device works with everything else. So yeah, it's like, we love the Wii Balance Board too. We loved Kinect too on Xbox, where you could do all this motion stuff. But ultimately we feel like those things were asking the player to remove themselves from their traditional gaming kind of habitat mind space, I think, too much for it to be adopted the way that, like, we would like Glider to be adopted. So that's kind of pie in the sky. I mean, it's like, we have a long way to go to get to that point where this is just a ubiquitous thing. Oh, you got a glider? Yeah, so I got one too. But it's like, I think this has its potential to get there, just because of its versatility and how I think when people really get it, it's just going to become this kind of second nature thing for folks.
We anticipate a community too.
Sure,
around
yeah.
glider. We think that it is configurable. So each person, when they get it, they might choose from predefined configurations. So there might be a Dark Souls or a Skyrim or something like that profile or configuration, and we believe that there's going to be opportunities to share those among the community. And we'll certainly have Discord channels and stuff like that. But that's what's exciting, is we think it can grow, and eventually somebody will figure out, hey, this can really, I want to use the Vegematic term, slice and dice.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the industry, manufacturing this particular product in fitness, we have a long way to go. There's a lot of room, and this is relatively a first to the market product, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And that, what I think, I don't know if it was John Warren that pointed out that nothing has changed with gaming as far as,
right.
I mean, there's been no major change for forever. I mean, it's like keyboard, mouse, or gamepad, and we can actually emulate either gamepad or the keyboard mouse. So it's it's just got that flexibility. What you want now. There are some limitations, like Valorant doesn't allow you to have a second mouse, so you can't use it because they've got some blockouts. But we don't see this as, and we often get the question, well, is it legal? If I can have a mouse with 27 buttons on it, I guess having your foot controller hopefully wouldn't be something that's considered illegal.
Well, I think, as technology evolves, then rules and guidelines are adjusted accordingly, right? I think we see this in sports as something that has been created.
Yeah, right.
It's a new world. It's a new reason to say either you have your glider league or what have you, right? Or you just, because now this is a thing, you adjust those rules. And I love it. It's really like very open source. It's kind of, what I was at the beginning here is, it's so cool how you're not telling people this is how you use it. You're saying, here's a tool. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And, one of the most common mistakes that inventors make is they have such a clear, specific vision for their product.
Right.
And I believe I remember this in business school, about 90% of inventions fail to succeed, and greatly because the inventor will not pivot the idea.
Right.
It is so common that an inventor, I mean, Rick, this is you, right? It's like your blood, sweat, and tears, your idea.
Yeah, it's going to be VR. It's going to be VR. It's going to be VR.
Right. And then a guy like John probably comes along, a marketer or entrepreneur or something like that, and they say, you know what? If we use this to open pickle jars, I don't know, but I could get these into Walmart and you would sell billions of them. And it's like, but no, it's for this. And
right.
I love that it feels like you've got it enough in a category to be targeted.
Yeah.
But the options of how to use it within that category with that demographic, you're really just empowering people to figure out how to use it as they would like to best.
And another thing that I want to mention, because it usually comes up, isn't this just for people who can't use their hands? I get, as an adaptive device. And I can have a snide remark for that. I say, well, just like a mouse and keyboard are for people who can't use their legs. And, it's like, but here's what I want to say is I am so excited that this is going to enable people who have
Absolutely.
limitations on their upper limbs.
Yeah.
But frankly, the only way we can be successful is if it's adopted widely. I talked to Mark Barley at the Able Gamers organization. They're very fond of what we're doing. They just can't point us to any funding to create the device for those with upper limb disabilities. And unfortunately, a lot of people who fit that category never even started playing games because it was too difficult. So it's kind of like a market that hasn't been opened yet. But we're excited that once we get, our successful Kickstarter, that we're going to even provide some of these units to disabled veterans who may have lost a limb overseas, fighting for our country. And so we want to do that. And we think that, it's something good we can do. But we don't want to focus on the assistive aspect only.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big tent.
It is.
It's a big tent. I mean, like, I think it's like, it's so exciting to be able to provide another kind of arrow in the quiver of gamers that are trying to do adaptive stuff. Like Xbox has done great stuff, and Sony is now doing some adaptive stuff with their console. And we're starting to see that door opening wider and more disabled gamers having the actual means to do it. And Glider slots right in with that experience, and it's easy to set up, and we know it's going to be an important part of a lot of disabled gamers ecosystem now. It just so happens that it's also going to be a device that every single person can use, and I think really benefit from. So it's really exciting for me. I'm also disabled. You can't maybe tell by sitting here, but it's like, that's one of those things that, I see so much potential for this. And I also see this kind of underserved market that I think is going to love it, and I think that's really exciting. And again, it's not our expressed focus, but we know that contingent's going to be there and give us a lot of good feedback, and it'll be a great thing to have.
Well, I think it's really cool that it's a product that can assist disabled individuals.
Sure.
But it's not purely for that. You may remember, I'm sure you guys are very aware, Xbox made a controller.
Yep, adaptive controller. Yep.
An adaptive controller. And it couldn't be much more than like kind of a PR or a marketing play. I'm not discounting.
But you're totally right. You're totally right. It was.
But the audience is just not big enough
to
sell enough. And so, but what you're doing, because it is relevant to able-bodied individuals and for everybody, but also assisting disabled, you're creating a market that can assist the disabled because it is supplement, for lack of a better term, with
and there's no taking away from the adaptive folks at Xbox who've done some amazing work to really get that situation to a place where it is. But my called shot, my Babe Ruth, moonshot is like, this thing doesn't plug into their adaptive. It plugs into the machine. It plugs into Xbox. Like, that's my goal. It's not my goal to get it. Like, my goal is to just have this thing work in tandem with the DualSense or an Xbox controller. And it's like, that's what I want. I want people to think about, it's like, I don't know, this is for the old heads out there, but for the Sega folks in 1999 that were like, they're going to sell you a keyboard and mouse, and people thought, well, that's stupid. But then, like, a lot of people played an MMO on Sega Dreamcast, and it's open your mind a little bit. Glider can fit right into the ecosystem to play whatever you want to play, and it's not just for the adaptive set. It's for everyone. So that's what we're excited about. That's my moonshot. We're still working on kind of console integration. I think that's going to be a long road. Those ecosystems are still a bit more closed and political to navigate, but it's something we're focusing on, I think, over the next year to see if we can accommodate.
Yeah, I can definitely say that our focus is PC right now, but there is potential to plug into the consoles. There's also the potential to hook into smartphones. can you imagine playing a game where you don't have on a mobile phone where you don't have to actually do everything on the screen, or
Yeah.
using your feet to add to it. Or a switch, adding it into that. So there's lots of potential to broaden it out. And we're also another application that's sitting out and ahead of us besides VR. Once, of course, Apple Vision Pro will be very exciting if we could ever, especially since they're kind of promoting the idea that you're going to sit down while you're using Vision Pro and you're going to wave your hands. Well, gosh, we're there. And we're also have sent a unit out to a group doing stroke rehab.
Yeah.
So that group doing stroke rehab wants to measure the tilting of the feet. So we're like, hey, go out, have at it.
Yeah.
Can I get a massage setting?
Well, we do have haptic feedback, some vibration in the device.
Yeah.
We're playing around with how much vibration is too much. There's actually a place for 2 motors per foot, and we could see, initially we were thinking that you might be going across rough terrain or something, or you can use it for just rumble pack kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Sony's been doing amazing stuff with haptics with our controllers. I think we could do the same with Glider. It's just, we're just looking at all of our options.
Yeah, I want to take the conversation here to the elevator pitch experience. As we stated at the beginning of this episode, you guys are the winner of the EsportsNext 2023 elevator pitch, which, by the way, is the brainchild of Miss Megan Van Petten over here, who brought this incredible idea to our conference. Share with us a little bit about your experience being part of the elevator pitch and how you feel that winning has influenced your business to date.
It was, of course, an honor to be selected to participate. I had to submit my pitch online. You guys evaluated who met the threshold. So there's always that anticipation. Hey, am I good enough?
Yeah.
But when I got accepted, made my flight reservations, got excited, got there in time to join you guys at Wrigley Field. Immediately felt part of a family. I had not been to any ESTA events before, so that was all new to me. And of course, had to really work on my pitch to make sure it was memorized. I could speak in a not too rapid voice, get my message across in a few slides. And so that, a lot of pressure to get up there. The format was nice. I actually had the 4 judges sitting there. It was,
which judge was your favorite? Just kidding. Keep going.
And not bribes. I mean, it's legit too. Like, not to jump in, Rick, but I have to.
Yeah.
Having Vela and his law firm, I mean, they like walk in and you have the feel like they're holding $1 million in the briefcase. Seriously though, he takes this very seriously. He is also the judge and firm for my original association for those pitches. Wow. So he followed me. He's part of our original fantasy sports family, and he still judges there and sponsors. Wow. I sold him on the idea a decade and a half ago. Yeah, and he came with us. So, but he's the real deal, Vela.
Yeah. Well, you had a great set of judges there, it was and then finishing my pitch, kind of hit the right time mark, I think, and then getting ready for questions. Hearing the questions, you don't know what's going to be asked. I mean, I was asked about manufacturing by Kevin.
Oh.
But fortunately, I had a little bit of idea what he was after. Hopefully, I answered that well. And Shireen had a great thing. And then it turned out, I hadn't even thought of it ahead of time. I knew I wanted to have my device up there but I was fortunate there was a chair there. So when Shireen asked about the device, I thought, oh, well, I'm gonna just go grab it to show them how I sit down, put my feet on it. And I think that was kind of a nice twist of events for me. And the fact that I wait a few hours for the results was I was really surprised because the other presentations had a great deal of merit as well.
Yeah.
And so you just don't know who you're going to gel with sometimes in the judge community and such. But it's, and as far as where we've gone, of course, I was anxious to first of all, put on my social media beforehand that I was pitching, and then after words to be able to post my win and post the picture of the trophy and
we took a victory lap. Yeah, we're pretty happy about it. Yeah.
Where's the trophy right now, Rick?
Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead.
Where's the trophy?
It's right up on my file cabinet. So I thought about grabbing it beforehand.
There we
go. See, okay?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have to hold it against something to. Well, I guess white. The white doesn't always show, but elevator pitch competition winner.
Beautiful.
And
it is a nice looking trophy.
I like that trophy. And you, John, were you watching live on Twitch? Or
I wasn't watching live. I think I was. I can't remember what I was doing, but I couldn't watch it live. I got.
Were you editing video with your feet at the time?
Probably was. Yeah, that's probably exactly what I was doing. But we kept in touch, and Rick was like, I think it went well. And what was so helpful for us, honestly, was getting that pitch down to a certain length. I mean, that was, because we had, we've talked to some people and we've had conversations, but they've been kind of casual conversations, a little bit like this, talking about us and everything. And this, I think, was really a good opportunity for us to get it super tight. And that was, I think, a really good skill for us to develop because we hadn't really been asked to do it. And, Rick did it beautifully. So, yeah.
Well, it's so, I feel like we hear all the time, have your elevator pitch down, right? Just as what your business is like. Oh, Megan, CSTA, John, what's DLC? Rick and John, what's glider? But how often do we really have that down?
Yeah.
Because we don't really need to, right? And we understand it deep in our minds,
right?
To articulate it concisely in a way that makes sense.
Yep.
This is an exercise that kind of really forces you to do that. And it takes me to that saying, it's something like, when you teach something, you learn it a second time.
Yeah,
right?
It's true. Yeah.
And so, you're able to look deeper into your business and your business model and what you do and why you do it, because you have to explain it and you have to do it effectively within a certain amount of time.
You're so close to it too. Like if you're developing this business and you're staring at it for 4 years for Rick, about a year for me, like you're so close to it. It kind of gets you into a space where you can step back and evaluate it more objectively and figure out kind of what people need to hear to get excited. And so it was good for us.
Yeah, and I think we have a particular problem with the pitch deck, at least I do mentally. The first slide after the introduction is always supposed to be define the problem you're solving.
Sure.
And, if I tell people, a gamer right now, you have a problem, you're not using your feet.
Yeah, they don't. They don't go.
It's kind of
they don't go. Like, you're right, Rick. You're so right, Rick. They don't do that. It's true. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite marketing strategies, because I think it's kind of sneaky.
One of the things John learned from business school.
I was taking notes, baby. I was paying attention to those classes. Is creating dissatisfaction.
Right.
And so sometimes I'm solving a problem that you have, but there's a whole nother strategy that you don't know you have this problem. So I'm making you aware of it and giving you a solution. And I'll give you an example for me personally. Apple AirPods. So I myself am a late adopter. I don't know if that surprises anybody, but I'm a little slow moving. That doesn't surprise Megan. But but I, just had my corded headphones, and sometimes people, I thought, maybe looked a little too proud of themselves with their AirPods when they first came out. I don't know. But I was like, so I was going to the gym and I'm listening to music, with my corded headphones. I'm on the bench press lifting just insane amounts of weight.
Insane reps. Insane. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, can I get more weight on here? The bars.
Yeah.
You get it. But
Shoutcasters now.
So I'm trying to work out, listen to music with my corded headphones. I'm getting all tangled up and stuff like that. And I see these people with their AirPods having no problem whatsoever. And so
you're having a final destination moment. And at any
Very
point
similar.
that
Very close.
Yeah.
And so the moment I get these, I can't live without them.
Right?
Yes. So what did Apple do? Apple helped create dissatisfaction with corded headphones.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that corded headphones were a problem because we only had corded headphones until we had in-ear cordless, right?
Apple's been amazing at that. I mean, Steve Jobs, I never looked in the mirror and said, I really need a computer in my pocket. Like, that just sounds like future BS to me, when I was however old I was, 22 or whatever, when that came out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't need a computer in my pocket. I've got a computer in front of me. And then he was like, no, you need a computer in your pocket. And I'm like, whatever. and then I got one and I'm like, how did we ever live without this? And
so his pitch deck in 2004 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The investors was, there's a big problem. People don't have computers in their pockets.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, oh, I didn't know I had that problem. But it's like,
I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
And
I remember saying, do you remember this, Rick? Because I don't know how old you guys are, but Rick, I'm just guessing. So
29.
Right. So I remember specifically myself saying to myself, I'll never get one. No, I'm not going to be mobile.
I'm not going to do
positive.
that.
Yes.
And now we can't step out the door of the room without it.
Right.
Without
now we have watches tethered to the phones. We have, it's everything.
I'm so old, Megan, that I wrote the code for the first wireless email system.
Yeah.
In 1993. In 1993, I developed wireless email.
So
the company went under because people didn't want wireless email.
Where were you at that time?
I was at a small company, a startup in Dallas, Fort Worth.
You were in Dallas. Okay.
Mobileware. And Mobileware.
What a great name.
I actually was sending emails over an old flip phone that you put a cord into your laptop, and you could actually send and receive emails. And we couldn't sell it.
Yeah, I bet.
People didn't need it.
Right.
You were first to market, just like this. Yeah. You're an early adapter, period. So you're doing it again, and so are you. John,
hopefully this time I can point out a better opportunity. And what I found through my career is technology almost never is the problem. It is marketing. It is getting your message across. It is getting the right solution at the right time. That sort of thing. So,
and Rick, this is exactly the harmony of the elevator pitch. This sort of, we have proof. Rick and John Warren, remember that show? 11 years later.
There you go.
I think John and Rick are in Bali or something.
We're definitely in Fiji or something. We're sipping Mai Tais and we're like, remember that? That was great.
And you can play video games with your feet while you're sipping Mai Tai.
Absolutely we can. Absolutely we can.
One of my favorite videos. One of my favorite videos of a gamer using the controller at one of my trade shows where I was demoing is a kid sitting there with his feet controlling the motion, and he's got his hands in a bag of Cheetos.
Amazing.
So he's eating Cheetos while he's playing with his feet. So
in 10 years, there will be a glider in underneath the seat in front of you in every major commercial airliner. That's my other called shot. I'm making a million call shots on this one. But it's like it's an exciting product, and I think it's going to be everywhere.
It also has a second advantage, which I covered in my patents, which is DVT prevention, which I haven't proven. So this is a concept, but the problem on long airplane flights is people's legs get a little stagnant, and some people develop deep vein thrombosis, clots.
Yeah,
and so our device could be a potential solution for that. And also, you get to play a game while you're on the plane.
Or scroll through the
eating
options
your bag of peanuts.
Yeah, exactly. You're scrolling through.
Peanuts will be outlawed by
options you want to watch, and you know.
Yeah,
that's true.
This is the flight model.
Yeah.
How is it that peanuts, that like the worst allergy of all time for some people, are the one thing available on the plane? Like
and I can't get over that either.
What's the deal with airplane food?
I don't know, Jerry. Oh my goodness, you guys are too much fun. Well, we're almost at the end of this episode. We've covered so much. We've talked about, you identifying, the need for this, going through the development cycle, obviously pitching and winning the elevator pitch competition. Is there anything more our listeners need to know about Glider on this episode?
Gosh, it's a way to get your feet incorporated into a digital world. We think your best digital self incorporates your feet. We're so excited to have the opportunity to dip our toe in the market, around the time that you're listening to this. So go check out, our website, glider.gg, feetlegal.com will take you to either a pre-sale page or to our Kickstarter if that's live. It'd mean the world to us if you follow us on socials too, Glider GG, basically everywhere. And I don't know, we're super excited to be making this thing.
And it's GLYDR.
That is a great point, Rick.
GLYDR.gg.
Yes, GLYDR.
So the other thing I think sometimes planting images in minds is a good marketing thing. Yes. And I don't even know if I've told John this, but I want to put this imaginary vision of a bunch of gamers, but they're cut off at the waist. So they don't have anything. They're gamers because they don't literally have to have anything below the waist. Right. So you got gamers, they're just, the feet are wasted.
Just hands.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's the vision. We take an esports tournament and think about all the people out there and all the wasted parts of their body.
Yeah.
I have a vision that the glider will be like the rollerblade of inline skating.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we'll take it. There are a lot of things that we'll take. So yeah, we would take it. But
what you took was advantage of probably the single best marketing opportunity in esports.
There you go.
There you go.
I don't think there's a bigger bang for your buck than to join a community that's going to support you and be able to pitch your product and then win. I love this. And out of curiosity, Rick, I know we're running out of time. Thanks for your grace, John. Rick, were you or John Warren, were you guys part of the class prep for the pitch? Either one of you?
I wasn't.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We did do John and I led a who, what, when, where, how, why pitch practice.
I did dial into that.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. Yeah. I also recommend that. I think that's nice. Yeah. I mean, we don't like to put a lot of structure into the pitch. We want it to be free and flowing and be you. But I'm glad you participated in that.
That was 2 months ago almost, or whatever.
That was like lifetime.
My memory.
I know. That's why I asked.
In startup time, that's like ages. Yeah.
In glider years, that's decades.
Glider years, that's exactly.
All right.
Well, we so appreciate you not only just joining us for today's podcast, but being part of our community. In addition to creating an innovative product that I think is going to interest and help tons of people, I think you're also providing inspiration for people and opening minds that, hey, you can create something from scratch. You can bring this tangibly to life.
Yes.
And you're showing people that it's possible because you're doing it. To our listeners, once again, please visit feetlegal.com for the Kickstarter, as well as glider.gg, glydr.gg, and glider.gg on socials. Please follow, promote Rick and John as they're doing this amazing work, and can't wait to get my glider myself next spring. So with that, gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the Esports Next podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, John.
Thank you both, and a big thank you to Vela Wood for their continued support,
absolutely,
as well as our generous judges, and a big congratulations to you guys. And John, thank you for always supporting right here, lockstep.